How did you settle on this Glands album as the one to talk about here?
Well, I guess my first instinct was to talk about something that I really like, and I the Glands are my favorite Athens band, so I just thought I would like to, bring them to people's attention if they haven't heard of them, because a lot of people haven't heard of them. But they really live, they were fantastic, and then the records were great and more nuanced. So I just love their music.
So, how did you first encounter them?
Well, it's interesting. The um, Ross Shapiro, who is the man behind the Glands, worked at a restaurant downtown Athens that was downstairs from where I worked at Hill Street Press, which was a publishing company that I worked for. And so I would see Ross. They had a big window, plate glass window, then and he would it was a Euro wrap, so they were making Euros, and he was often in front of that window and I would always wave to him and um then I'd go in sometimes and order food and we'd talk a little bit and he was a man of few words, but we came to realize that we both did music and so we talked about that and I had never heard the band and they apparently they didn't play often. So this was before this Glands record came out, and so they were going to be playing a show. And I thought, well, I had no idea what his music would be like, and because to talk to him, he was very. Some people say he was a curmudgeon and all that, but that never, I never felt that way. But anyway, so I said, "Oh, where are you playing?" And so I went to the show, and I was completely blown away not only by the music but by his voice because it was so unlike his persona
Huh.
and I just couldn't I just was shocked or I mean I was pleasantly surprised and so after that I was going in and talking to him all the time and it was soon after that that they signed a deal. I think it was with Capricorn and ended up putting out this record and going on tour, but they'd been playing a long time before that. I just never, I moved to Athens to get for a job, so I wasn't really into the music scene so much. I mean, I just knew bands, I knew a few people in bands and stuff, but I just didn't really go out and hear much. So it was not only a surprise, but a really pleasant surprise, and I just became a huge fan from that point on.
So, all right. So, and I do want to get back to, how you first came to this album and talk about the album itself. But I'm also trying to put the chronology together here because, okay, so you met up with him before this album came out. The album came out in 2000. So was this like during a hiatus with Swimming Pool Cues or what? Where does that all fit in?
No, no. I mean, I left the Q's in '87 and then started singing with them again in the early '90s. So I was living in Athens or outside of Athens, but still going to Atlanta to play with the Q's. So,
Okay.
but he had heard of the Q's, which and he also had my solo album, which I was shocked to find out. So it was great. But that's and then I guess they had released another album before that, which I think was called Double Thriller. Yeah. Which is great. They had, and I didn't know that album. I mean, I just didn't know anything until I went to that show that night, and that was just fantastic.
All right. So after you saw this show and you were really impressed and you loved the music, did you just immediately go and pick up their records or a record? No. So how did that all happen?
Yeah, I didn't do that until this record came out. I knew that they were had recorded something. I think he had told me that they were doing a record. I wish I could imitate his voice, but doing a record and that that there was a possibility they were going to be signed to Capricorn and all this stuff. So when this record came out, I definitely went and bought it immediately and just have worn it almost worn it out.
Right. Yeah, I should have figured that out because you said you first met him when before this album came out, and they only had the one before this one. So
Yeah, and I had not heard that one, but I now have that one as well.
okay. Well, it looks like you have them all, right?
Well, yeah, this box set that they put out is really great, and it's got this really great booklet, that tells the whole history of the Glands and everything. So it's a fantastic compilation of his music. And then there was a lot of music after he died. There was a lot of music that had not been released because he was just constantly writing and recording with different people for different things, would come over. He had recorded a lot of stuff in his house. And so there's a lot of unreleased music as well.